I don't usually compliment the Ministry of Education on anything. I think they have presided over the catastrophic decline of the New Zealand education system now for, oh God, probably 30 years. And there's nothing to suggest that anything that they do in their IRI or the ARI in Wellington makes a blind bit of difference that is positive to this country. It's usually left to individuals or schools who sort of push against the tide to try and ensure that a good and decent education, particularly at secondary level, is given to our young people in this country. But I came across something last week that was written by them, though I went, oh my God, that's actually quite interesting, and I'm glad you've done that. And it was a short paper, a short research paper. So somebody, presumably within the ministry, must have asked the question, or perhaps somebody had it asked of them. Are our highest achieving school leavers increasingly choosing to do their tertiary studies overseas? The question was posed of the ministry. And in a very short study of, I think, about 10 or 12 pages, which I've now got in front of me, that answer was given. And I suspect that's anecdotal because what we now know is that people take tertiary studies bloody seriously these days, and so you should. I mean, it's costing me an arm and a leg to support 2 undergraduates at Auckland University. And also, you want to make sure that you're going to a university in which, because it's such a competitive world out there, you're actually going to have a degree that is commercially realistic and is actually going to give you a job and the sort of opportunities that you hope it would do. And if you get a university out of, well, a degree out of, well, I'm a bit of a prejudice on this one, but say Waikato University, it's not going to have the same merit in the international marketplace as, for example, a degree from Sydney or Melbourne University in particular, who are now, I think, ranked in the top 50 in the world. We haven't got any ranked in the top 150. I think Auckland comes at about 151, and then it's a huge gap to Otago, and I'm in a huge gap. So as a consequence of that, parents and also bright kids who want to get on in the world, anecdotally, seem to be going, particularly across the Tasman, to those much higher ranked tertiary institutions to get a degree that they believe will give them a much improved chance and more opportunities in an international world. And one of that also, if you like, some of that has been measured in how schools are endorsing and embracing Cambridge exams rather than the very much questioned, and rightly so, NCEA system in this country, which is also, I have to say, having a dramatic effect upon kids and whether or not the portability of those particular degrees or NCEA overseas is of any great value either. Joining us to talk about this, and we've talked to him before, about education standards, is the headmaster, as they call them, the principal of one of the most prestigious public schools in this country, Auckland Grammar, Tim Oconor, and he joins us now. Tim, welcome to the show. Lovely to have you on, and thank you for dipping out of a conference. What conference are you in today?
Oh, thanks, Michael. I'm at the Association of Boys Schools of New Zealand conference. We have an annual conference where as many of the heads of the boys' schools as possible gather. So got about 45 heads of boys' schools here.
And what are the issues for you? What are the preeminent issues for boys' schools just at the moment, Tim?
Well, you've raised one of them, and that's our assessment systems and what are the appropriate, what's the most appropriate teaching methodology, not only for boys, because it's as relevant for boys as it is for girls. So, in fact, one of the things we've just been listening to Professor Barbara Oakley, who is a professor from Oakland, Michigan, and she's here on sabbatical for 6 months with the New Zealand Initiative, and she's just been talking about the value of direct instruction over child-centred learning.
Right, which has been something of a ideological push from, again, the Ministry of Education in particular. Can I just ask, before we get into what we're going to talk about, boys have been failing, well, and failing's the wrong word to describe it, have not been performing as satisfactorily in our education assessment system as girls. What do you ascribe that to?
Again, it'll come back to the structure of learning. I think boys work very well in a structured environment. They like to know where they stand. They like to know that there will be no surprises. They want natural justice and fairness. But I think our boys like the opportunity to be regularly assessed, and I think that really in a moderated environment, and I think that's been lost considerably in New Zealand education. So, having exams every term so that they can actually map their progress, they can learn through the examination process, they can actually see specific progress. And I know, look, there are many people, and in fact, the ministry have a campaign along with the teachers' union, the secondary teachers' union, to rid streaming from our schools. But that's because they have a prejudiced view and a false definition of what streaming is. Because the problem with streaming in the majority of schools is that they don't actually allow for regular assessment and regular movement. And so, a student could end up in reading group of, the elephants, and end up in the elephants, which is a stream group, for the entire year.
No, listen, I'm not going to have an argument with you on that. I do not understand the ideological imperatives of the Ministry of Education or teacher unions, never have, never will. But it's interesting that you're having a conference of boys' schools. How long have you, how have boys' schools felt the need to come together to share their common experiences?
So this organisation started not long before I actually became the head of a boys' school, and that was 2002. So I think maybe 5 years prior to that, so late 1990s, was when this association came together. And it is to share best practice across our schools. So at the moment, for example, there is a small group of schools who are leading a literacy project. And then our aim is to be able to roll that out across all boys' schools in the country and pilot it. And if it's successful, we would openly make it available to all schools or any schools of interest in the country. So there's some power in the commonality of purpose, and that can actually benefit everyone. Are you still there? Are you there? Hello? Hello?
Tim, can you hear me?
Oh, I can now. Something happened
I
there.
don't know why I dropped out, but I did. My apologies to you, but I had
No problem.
I had my red light on, so I was going, what the hell's going on? Listen, Tim, going to the assessment system, I'm interested in the fact that so many schools have chosen Cambridge. I think Auckland Grammar offered as well. Can I just ask, first of all, before we get into its merits, do schools such as yourselves offer both NCEA and Cambridge, or is it one or t'other?
No, we offer both. We call it a dual qualification pathway. So be about 60% of our seniors who would do Cambridge, and the other 40 will do NCEA level 2 and level 3.
So is that designed for the kids that aren't as academic NCEA at your school?
Again, it is streamed, but boys can, if someone had a preference for standards-based assessment and they were scoring, very good and consistent marks, they could choose to go into NCEA pathway if they wanted to. And if they were going to do that, they might do it, for example, for some of the more creative subjects like arts, design, industrial design, etc. They might choose NCEA for that reason, but otherwise Cambridge is very rigorous, and it is an examination-based system.
Mm.
So we typically say to boys in their fifth form year, we still call fifth form, year 11, is that they really need to be hitting a 55% average in order to go into a Cambridge AS, Advanced Subsidiary. That's the first step in sixth form, and then on to A-levels in their seventh form.
Right. My son did Cambridge last year at year 11. So is it a 3-year course, the 11, 12, 13?
Yeah,
It
you
is?
can do, so he would have done IGCSEs, so which is the entry program in a secondary environment.
Yeah.
We used to offer IGCSEs as a school, but we moved away from that as a fifth form cohort and introduced our own assessment system and curriculum, the reason was because we were finding our boys were doing very, very well in it, and so much so that, like in the good old days when we had school certificate and university entrance and you did well in school C and you went into UE thinking that you were actually, better than you were,
that's right.
then you didn't actually perform so well. So we moved IGC aside and put in a system that's got quite a lot of AS in its curriculum, so that actually we've effectively got a 2-year program leading boys into Cambridge.
So at the end of my year 13, I come out with a Cambridge. It's the equivalent of what English A levels is. Is that right?